In this video, I'll be teaching you how to cut a stylish princess bustier blouse with yoke, and also how to create a side basque for the dress. So to start this pattern, first you need to mark out your basic measurement. So first I started with marked the shoulder to bust, shoulder to under bust, shoulder to waist, and for the basque length of this dress, please add 4 inches because the basque is not too long. Next, you want to mark your shoulder divided by 2. My shoulder is 14 divided by 2. I will mark 7 and come down by 1 inch. This 1 inch is for the shoulder slope, and I'll draw out a slanted line. Place your tape and you're going to find your chest line. To do that is your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. So I made a mark on that point and I placed my ruler and I'm drawing out a straight line. After I'm done drawing that out, that measurement you have on the shoulder, which is your shoulder divided by 2, go ahead to mark it there. Now, after you're done marking, go ahead to connect from that point all the way to the upper part. Now, after you're done connecting, go ahead to fold your tape into 2 and mark. Come in by ½ inch. Now, you're going to mark your bust circumference divided by 4 at this point. My bust is 33 divided by 4. I have 8.3 inches. Connect from that point to the midpoint of your armhole and to the upper part. Next, you want to mark out your basic neckline of 3 by 3 inches for the upper part of this dress. And now you're going to go ahead to connect. After you're done connecting, the next step you want to take is to mark your darts for this pattern. And to mark your dart, you will start by marking your nipple to nipple divided by 2. My nipple to nipple is 7 inches divided by 2. I have 3.5. After marking it all the way to the lower part of my pattern, go ahead to place your ruler and draw out a straight line. Next is to mark the dart. You can mark 1 inch on both sides of your pattern, share what you have equally, or you can mark ½ inch here and come in by 1.5, mark ½ inch here and come in by 1.5. So if you're plus size, you can go in by 1 inch at the front part of this pattern, and then at the side, go ahead and mark 2 inches and connect. Or you can decide to share it equally, but the bust is fuller by the side, so you can just go ahead and use 1 inch in front and 2 at the side. Connect from the bust to the under bust, and also repeat this at the other side of your pattern. After you're done marking this, I'll go ahead to use my marker and I will outline this part. So after I'm done marking this out, the next thing you want to do is to go ahead to divide your armhole into 2. Now you're going to mark. From that point, you're going to connect to your bust point, and I will be marking a dart intake of ½ inch on both sides. Blend it down to the original dart line, and now you're going to connect it back this way, creating your princess dart effect, and outline this. After this, that ½ inch on both sides, which is 1 inch, take it up and reconnect it back to the armhole. Now you're going to mark your body measurement. We'll be marking the bust circumference divided by 4 here, and measure this dart intake you have here and replace, and then add the sewing allowance of your choice. So after marking this, I'll mark my under bust circumference divided by 4, which is 28 divided by 4. I have 7. Measure the dart intake, replace it. The dart intake of 2 inches, add your sewing allowance from 1.5 to 2 inches. Unless you don't want to use a sewing allowance, you can use half. So for the waistline, I'm going to snatch my waist a bit. My waist is 28. I took out 2 inches from it, making it 26. I divided that, marked it, and I replaced the dart intake and added the sewing allowance. For the basque length, I marked my hip circumference divided by 4, measured the 2 inches dart intake, replaced it, and I added my sewing allowance. Now I will just go ahead and connect this, starting from the upper part of my pattern all the way to the lower part. And after I'm done marking, I'll go ahead to use my marker to outline. After I'm done outlining, I'll go ahead to mark all these measurements on the other side of my pattern. So here is my pattern now, and I've marked out all these measurements on the other side. So you also want to take note of the center, because for this pattern the center was cut into 2, and for the neckline, sweetheart neckline, I'm just coming down ½ inch after my chest line, and I'll reconnect it to this point. Now go ahead to also reconnect this to the other point. I'll go ahead and use my marker to outline this so that this mark will be visible for me on the other side of my pattern paper, so that I'll be using the same neckline for this side of my pattern, and I'll go ahead to connect. So after connecting, I'll go ahead to open it up back again. So this center line, you want to cut it into two, because what we have on the pattern, it was cut into two and joined back again. So now you want to go ahead to mark your bust dart. For the bust dart, to get that is the difference between your shoulder to waist at the front and your shoulder to waist at the back. If you place your tape and measure your shoulder to waist in the front and your shoulder to waist at the back, you notice that it is not the same. My shoulder to waist in the front is 17 inches. My shoulder to waist at the back is 15.5 inches, giving me a difference of 1.5. That's 17 minus 15. I have 1.5 inches. Or if you don't want to use a bust dart, go ahead just to use the same measurement for your waistline for the front and also for the waistline for the back. Next, I'll connect the basque. So when connecting, come in a little from your sewing allowance and then connect to the side. We have the basque part of this dress at the side and not at the center. Also blend in your dart this way, and you're going to draw out from here, connecting it to the waistline. So when you're connecting to the waistline, please go in by your sewing allowance. If your sewing allowance is 2.5, go in by your sewing allowance by the side, so that by the time you're joining your dress, the waistline of the front and the waistline of the back will be meeting. So the basque length of this dress, or the basque effect of this dress, is not too deep. It's just okay. So unless you want yours to be too pointy, but this is okay from what we have on the thumbnail. So I'll just go ahead and cut this out. And when you're cutting out this side, please go ahead to blend in your bust darts before cutting out, and then I'll continue going ahead to cut out the rest of my pattern. So if you have any question regarding this tutorial, you can also leave your question about it. So I'll just go ahead and cut out the rest of the pattern. After cutting, this is what I have, and we'll move over to the back pattern. So I marked my shoulder to bust and my shoulder to waist. You notice that the shoulder to waist is shorter at the back, which is my shoulder to bust, shoulder to waist of 15.5 inches. Now you want to go ahead and mark your shoulder divided by 2 and come down by 1 inch, just like we did for the front pattern. And also remember, this pattern does not have a zipper, so I did not include it. Go ahead to find your chest line again, just like we did at the front, by dividing our bust circumference by 6 and adding 1.5 inches to the pattern. Mark back what you have here at this point and go ahead to connect it. Now you want to go ahead also to divide your armhole into 2 and also mark out your bust circumference on the chest line. Go ahead to connect and draw out your armhole curve. After you're done drawing that out, I'll start by marking my nipple to nipple divided by 2. My nipple to nipple is 7 inches, divided by 2 is 3.5. After marking this, you want to go down and mark your dart intake of 1/2 inch on both sides. Come down by 1 inch at the bust, and you're going to go ahead to connect this at both sides of your dart. Now you're going to start by marking your body measurement. Mark your bust circumference divided by 4 and add your sewing allowance. There's no dart at that point. That waistline you snatched at the front, that is the measurement we use for the back, and measure back the dart intake, replace and add your sewing allowance. Then connect from the bust to the under bust this way. So this is the back pattern, very simple, and I'll outline the necessary part. Next, you want to go ahead to mark the lacing bar area of your pattern. So depending on how open you want the back to be, I'll be using 2 inches for this, and I will go ahead to mark this out and I will connect. At the upper part of this dress, I'll be getting rid of the bulginess on the top. I'll go down by 0.5 inches, and here also I'll mark 0.3 inches for the yoke so that it will relax very well. So for this pattern, the waistline you use in marking the waist of the upper part, go ahead also to use that waistline for your skirt. Now I marked a basic neckline of 3 inches, came in by 1 inch or 1.5 at this point, and I connected. So as I was saying, if you snatch 2 inches from your waistline, my waistline is 28, and because I'm snatching my waist, the measurement I'm using for my waist now is 26. So when you're cutting out your skirt pattern, the waist measurement you'll be using is now that 26 inches. You will no longer use your actual measurement for the skirt pattern. Now you're also going to go ahead to cut this out or blend in your dart as one. It depends on what you want to use at the back pattern of your dress. So after I'm done cutting this, the back pattern of the dress is ready. So if you have any question, please go ahead to ask.